There is another kind of bind off that I wanted to touch on. I already have some videos loaded for doing it, but it's a Picot bind off. And just look at the Picot edge. Picot edge is these little bumps that run along the edge, and these can be done knit and cast on two and bind off two. That is one option. Another option is to use a crochet cast on and do it slightly differently. So what I've done is I did a picot, and I have now bound off 3 stitches. I want to look at this stitch in particular, right here, not the one that's in the needle, but here. So there's my 3 stitches bound off, and you can see this stitch. Yarn is coming from it now, but you can see that it's sitting on top of this knit stitch. Then with your crochet hook, cast on or chain 3. I have 3 stitches. Now we're going to come back to that stitch that I pointed out before, the one that has the last knit stitch in it, and I'm going to go into that stitch, make another stitch with the crochet hook, and pull this through all 3 stitches, and that makes a piqué or picot. Again, we bind off 3. Now this number is arbitrary. Depending on the size of picots that you want, you will bind off 1 or 2. You can cast on, you can chain 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. You can make different size picots. I happen to like 3 and 3. Sometimes they get too big. I think they're unattractive. So after binding off 3, I then chain 3, leaving the last loop on the needle. I go back to the last stitch that has been bound off, go to make a new stitch, make a new stitch, pull the crochet hook through all 3, and then bind off 3. Oops. Splitting the yarn is no good. Here we go. 1. This stitch is mounted. There we go. 2, 3. Bind off 3, and note the last stitch bound off is in this chain stitch. Then I'm going to chain 1, 2, 3. Come back to the last stitch bound off, pick up that loop, come back to the next stitch to bind off, work the stitch, and bring the crochet hook through all 3 loops. 1, and go back to the same process. 2, 3, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, come back to the last stitch that was bound off, go into that loop, use your crochet hook to make your next stitch, come through all 3 loops, all 3, and continue binding off. In this case, just 2 more stitches. What's going to make this bind off look especially attractive is having it pretty much centered on the work. Choosing to have doing a little work before you start, whether you're going to do 2 stitches or 3 stitches or 4 stitches, how many stitches you're going to do. This little picot is actually really a loop, and when done large can be attractive. It's a different picot than the knit picots. To do a picot with a crochet hook, it's another way to create a beautiful edge.